Hey guys, it's me again, Orcslayer with us. Where we last left off, let's see, checking. Well, Belle, main Terrario, sort of is way weaker than he was before. And he met up with Hestia. Loki remembers who he is, but he's asked her to keep like a lid on that. And he's had a few run-ins with the Loki's familiar, like a few run-ins with the Eyes Wallenstein and a few others, yada. Belle's heading to, and this is like a month has passed. Belle is heading to the dungeon. He's been racking up lots and lots of gold, constantly, just constant flows of gold coming his way. With Belle this day being alone again, that's when he's approached by Lily. Since Belle doesn't have the knife and such and can't run into her then or anything, he just pretty much runs into her because, well, he is a solo adventurer. And I'd say this time she's still scouting around. So as she approaches him, she pretty much explains everything about how that he looks like he's alone, yada yada yada. He agrees to take her on, and then they go forward. He explains to her how he asks her how does she fight and is there a specific way she does things. She asks, well, it's pretty much the supporter's job to try to bend their way into fitting into into the boss fights, as she would explain. It's like, alright. He explains it that he pretty much fights them with his fist only if it's really necessary. He brings out his weapon, which it really isn't. He can fight off a Minotaur at this point. So as he explains this to her, that the Minotaurs, he's physically greater than even some of the other monsters, so he typically just kills them with his hands. And sometimes he'll throw out a few lightning bolts around. It's like, okay, is there anything else besides that? He's like, I do know a few other things, a few buff spells, you would say. That's pretty much it. Okay, what about you? She says, well, I use this little crossbow and just pretty much fire it at anything that tries to get close to you. It's like, okay. As she's looking on the back of his weapon, she's like, so what's that weapon made out of? Where'd you find it? She's like, he says he found it in a ruin. In a very far away land. That's where he says he finds it. She's like, oh. As he then goes on to explain that it is one of the heaviest things he's ever had to lift. Well, not the heaviest, but it's actually pretty decently weighed. And some guys have actually asked to lift it before, and they literally fall to the ground. She's like, oh. So yeah. As he explains that, he then goes as they go deeper and deeper. And this is how the routine is for the few weeks, talking with each other and such. Belle getting tons and tons of gold. Well, yeah, gold, or grosh. I forget what the exact word, Valis. Sorry, I played some, does anyone know Kingdom Come Deliverance? I played a little bit of that. The currency in that is Groshen, one of the two. Anyways, Belle and her make their way again and again up and down the things. There really isn't a lot I can say for these encounters aside from Belle crushes things with his bare hands. Pretty much breaks a bunch of things back. They don't fight any Minotaurs or anything, just small things to keep up with Lily's pace. Belle constantly to make sure that her back is covered, with a few times throwing a few lightning bolts to smite down a few things. It's like, you alright? She's like, yeah, thanks. collect the stones, and he like keeps a sack of his own, and she has her like sack of thing as well. Continue talk. It's like, well, as he's finished, he says that he's gonna go grab a bite to eat, and does she want to join? She's like, sure. As they go to the hostess fertility, they pretty much approach, and she's too small to get in the chairs, so he pretty much picks her up and just like sets her in there. As he's like, Mamma Mia's like, oh, hello. He's like, the special. He's like, alright, and for her, he's like, the small special. She's like, alright. She writes it down, then they wander back. That in exchange, a group of lizardmen wearing very religious iconography appear out of nowhere. They pretty much make their way into the thing and just sit down. Belle's weapon is pretty much put against I'd say they're at a nice little booth. And Belle has his weapon setting aside there. A few of the lizardmen are talking, then one of them's like, as they like look over at Belle's weapon. It's very similar shape to some of the statues that they have to this nameless king, as they would say. They're like speaking in the language of lizard folk or whatever, and they start speaking. One of them approaches Belle out of like being like convinced to. It pretty much speaks in a very lizard-like voice, I guess would be the best way to describe it. Like with hisses and like a few snarls. Not sounding aggressive or like angry, but that's just how a voice comes off. And asks about his weapon and where he found it. He said he found it in a very old ruin. That he used to dive into old dungeons. Well, not old dungeons, but old fortresses and such. That he found this and one of those very deep things. He explains it as it was just lying there, like an old armory. So as it asks, can it like try to pick it up? It says, by all means, try. He goes to grab it. He's like, trying to like lift it, and it can't at all. It can't even make it budge. And this lizard folk is pretty built. As it's like pretty much calls over to its like friends as they all try to lift it, as they're like starting to let off roars from how much they're lifting. They eventually nudge it a little bit, then it just immediately goes right back. As they're like sort of breathing, it's like, here's your food. As they sit down, it's like, thanks. He gets back to eating. The lizard folks say, thanks. As they walk back, several of the people are like, there's no way those guys couldn't lift that thing. I bet it's all for show watch. As one of the other guys asks, can he try it? Belle's just like, sure, with his mouth full. People just keep on trying to lift it. This guy tries to lift it by himself, and he's also pretty big. He goes to like lift it, like, and he starts clenching his teeth as like they're about to break. Belle's like, alright, cool your jets there. I think just go sit down. You may not be able to do it. As is like, sort of like, whatever, man. Goes back and sit down. Belle and Lily eat their food in peace. Belle then pays, and then they both part ways. Belle not really doing anything. Hestia and Belle don't do that like little date thing in the anime, apparently. Like, is what I think, because I find it weird. If I remember correctly, Belle's barely been in Arario for about a month, and Hestia has already clung on to him so tightly. It's weird. But Belle, by this point, has been there for like a month or so. Lily still asks for that day off, but Belle's like, alright, I'll just be in the dungeon. and he's constantly working. But before that, like, Hestia asked him, like, could you, like, get some armor made? Like, just for some protection? Bell's like, my skin's pretty resistant. I don't think I need armor. She's like, come on. This is an order from your goddess. Get some armor. He's like, fine. I'll get some armor. As he makes his way to the guild, talking with Miss Anna, asking her about places to get decent armor and such. Like, she's like, oh, I can't. I have a few other things to take care of, but like tomorrow, if you want, we could like go up and check it out. Like, sure, I wouldn't mind. As he meets with her tomorrow, pretty much still wearing the same. She's like, do you have anything else to wear? He's like, no, I could come shirtless if you want. She's like, how long has it been since you watched that? He's like, about a few days. She's like, sure. Belle pretty much removes a cloth thing. She's like, alright, let's go. As they start making their way towards the dungeon, Belle has left his weapon behind, believing it not really being needed. Even if something does happen, could easily strike it down with his fist. He makes his way up the stairs and such, looking around, not seeing anything really of use. Something that wouldn't really fit his size, till eventually he gets to a giant blacksmith shop. Well, not a giant blacksmith. He goes past a few of those small shops, even ones with a few giant blacksmiths. But he ends up in the same place he does in the anime, looking around. He's like, nothing in here that really catches my eye. As then he sees the Wolf Crozo armor, but instead of it being white and red, it's sort of black and yellow, being sort of golden yellow. And he actually even notices that armor in the background. He's like, if I remember correctly, there's an armor in the background that looks like Havel's. He's like, oh. As he like takes a knee, he looks at it. He's like, reminds me of Havel's old armor, except not made out of stone. He's like, Havel and them had a good life. It's good of them. So he then stands back up, grabbing that giant box. He pretty much sets it on the counter. He's like, how much for this? It's like, I believe it was 999 Valis. As he sets it down, he sets a coin sack. He's like, will this cover it? As the guy counts it, like, yeah, thanks. Bell pretty much sets it on. He's like, gives it a few stretches. He's like, alright, this would be good. Pretty much gives him gauntlets, leggings, and somewhat of a chest plate. Like one of those half chest plates, like a leather strap with like a chunk of metal guarding his chest. There we go. Miss Anna looks at his armor. He's like, you like it? As he like pretty much moves around it, see if it's comfortable. It's not that much stuff, Belle. Like, it's only a few gauntlets and a shoulder pad or so. Like, still, like, test everything out. As she's like, good. Well, as they leave, she still gives him that nice little memento. He like puts it, he still has it, and he puts it on. Thank you, Miss Anna. As Lily and him work on the day again, Belle again seeing that guy trying to like roughhouse with Lily, he pretty much walks over there. The guy trying to get in his way, pretty much being pushed aside. Belle arrives over there. Is there a problem? In a very deep voice. She's like, no, sir. I was just talking to my Familia member here, because I'm pretty sure that guy's in the Ishtar Familia. Belle's like, He's asking her if she wanted to join us today. He's like, I'm afraid she's already taken a job with me. See you. Come on, Lily. It's time to go back into the dungeon. She's like, yes, Master Belle. As she runs after Belle, she notes on his new armor and such. Like, yeah, just got it yesterday. As they start clearing the dungeon a lot more thoroughly, this time going farther and such, until they get to the same floor that they would in the anime. That's when she enacts her plan. As she, instead of trying to steal that knife, hits those like little pouches where he would keep all the items. They've got a fair bit of items. As she shows them, it's like, sorry, Master Bell. It's like, come on. As he pretty much is about to jump over there, few orcs and such come running and smash their log into his thing. Lily watches this as the log shatters against Bell. It's like leaving a bruise, in fact. It's like, as he takes out his weapon and swings it very quickly, cutting two of these things in half. Bell rushing forward and slicing and smashing upon these enemies. Eyes doesn't really come down. Again, doesn't come down because Miss Aina doesn't feel like Bell would have any chance of anything killing him. He smashes his way through these enemies and stomps on their heads and just pretty much thunderstrikes them. He then eventually gets up to where Lily is, where the same thing has happened to her. They steal all her coins and everything. He sees her as he rushes forward using his, pretty much chanting the thing of Sacred Oath, as he rushed forward with his enhanced strength and speed, pretty much slicing through dozens of these ants at once, using lightning blast and everything to just cull the enemies. Eventually clearing the room, he's like, Lily, where are the stones, Lily? That was today's payment. That's how we were gonna eat tonight. As she pretty much starts asking for forgiveness, as when she was looking at Bell, she saw like a hero in a way. As he had stood tall, she asked for his forgiveness. He forgives her pretty easily, saying that she thought, and going on to explain that how she betrayed him and everything. He's like, alright, I'm gonna be straightforward with you. Nothing you could ever do would possibly kill me, aside from letting a giant dragon fight me. Out of anything of that, there's no way anything you would do would kill me. As he gives a laugh, like a little chuckle. So stop crying, little one. As he says that, she pretty much grabs onto his leg, because I feel like that's, she like grabs onto it. He's like, stop, it's fine. As she then stops crying, they go back up and they just like, so wanna grab a bite? She's like, sure, why not? As they go to hostess fertility again. This is how their life really revolves this entire time. Bell makes his way all around, just helping constantly. And they eventually go into another month. With Bell and the Monster Festival actually happening, he has talked with Seer and them, actually building up a good relation with the hostess fertility, always being quiet, being polite, and everything. With a few of the ventures around there usually get a bit rowdy, as they would use those words, as they explain that he usually just sits very quietly, is very pleasant, and tips well. I don't know if tips are a thing in that world, but I'll say there is. Bell explained that he was taught to be polite in a way, as he says that. So, the hostess fertility. When was the last? I forget who's the hostess fertility. He's trying to make small talk with one of them, as Sincere and I forget her name. The elf. I forget the elf's name. I'm sorry. Constantly I go back and forth between series. I've Seer and what's her name? I don't know. The elf. I'll look it up later. Seer and her talk with Bell, asking him a few questions, and they ask about the weapon, him giving the exact same explanation he did to the lizardmen. She's like, "Oh, you were a rune explorer?" "Yeah, all the way across into the ancient lands." She's like, "Really? What were some of the ones?" As he explained some of the lands. Several of them saying those languages over there, some of those places are really old that nobody even knows what it says. Only a few people who dedicated their lives to it know what it says. He's like, "Well, really? That was pretty easy." As they're like, "What do you mean?" As he explains where he came from, they're like, "That place is nearly abandoned. Nobody really lives there anymore. It's just a vast country of untouched wilderness." It's like, "Oh, trust me, that place is very touched. There's a bunch of old stone walls and castles there, but they're abandoned. They were abandoned long ago." As he says that, it's like, "Really? Do you know one of the cities?" "Anne Orlando. It's one of the cities. Biggest city I saw there, in fact. There's also multiple smaller sized cities around the place and a few villages. There's about one village left there. That's about it. Nothing else, though." It's like, You know what I heard?" As he says, "What?" "That's where the first gods actually came down. Nobody knows their names or anything. They were just some gods that came down. History's been all but forgotten. That's where they say that's the time when God started coming down. Started granting blessings, and then familiars eventually popped up. They also say that's when demons and the lizard folk actually came around as well. So nobody really knows what happened 1,000 years ago. Not even some of the elves." He's like, got a point there. Anyways, let's sorry. My lips are kind of dry, and so is my throat. So as he goes on to explain, where his adventures have taken him, and how long it actually took him to get to Aurario, he explains a year or more is how long it took him to get here. And that he learned quite a lot in that time traveling between then and here, as he explains. That he met a lot of interesting people, and that he even fought a sandworm at one time. He said those things are tough as nails. Jeez. This is going across the desert, and it just appeared out of nowhere, and I just sliced right through it. Luckily, I was quick enough to evade it. Just kept on trekking across the desert, eventually reaching the other side. That place was hell, trust me." As he yawns, he's about to finish he finishes his drink when he also has pretty much finished his food, and he's like, "It's getting kind of late. Good night, Seer. Good night." He's like, "See ya." No problem. As he stands up and walks away, Miss Seer's like, "He's pretty nice, isn't he?" She's like, "Yeah, he is. Well, we gotta get back to work. Come on, Seer." It's like, "Alright." Her standing up and going. Spell's walking home again. Meg says hello to Hestia, as then she talks about her trip to the banquet of the gods, and I'll say it's held before the monster festival, but it's held a day or so, 2 days before the monster festival. As Belle speaks with Hestia about how her trip was, she explains that it was actually pretty good, and that Loki actually seemed pretty nice too, even, which is odd. She always hated me for some reason. It's like, anyone else there? She's like, yes, Hephaestus and Thor were actually there. It's like, Hephaestus and Thor. How is Hephaestus doing? Is she well? She's like, yeah, Hephaestus is doing fine, actually. She still has the eye patch on, though. She's like, No, why she has it on. Apparently, from what I heard, as he looks, as like, why did you look around? Nobody's here. It's a force habit. There's apparently something actually happened there. People who've looked at it, oof, they've kind of gone not insane, but don't like what they saw. And Thor was being himself again. He was drinking a lot and challenging quite a few people to fights. He's like, it sounds like Thor. As he mumbles that, he's like, what was that? Nothing. Like, whoa, the Monsters Festival is tomorrow, and well, you want to go there, Hestia? It's been a while. I haven't had taken a break in a few months. I haven't taken a break since getting here, so I thought it'd be nice. Like, sure. As she says that, they go out, and he still has to try and find Seer and give that nice little purse to her. Like, very well. He's brought his weapon this time. He's like not wanting to leave it behind. He has his gauntlets and leggings on, but he's left the chest piece at home, having that nice little cloak of stuff on him. And as they meet Seer, that's when the giant ape bursts through. The ape comes smashing its hands down. Bell was like, come on, move it, as he grabs it too and jumps backward. He's like, well, that was unexpected. Freya, this time, has seen Bell and sees that his aura is still very unique. That's none that she's seen before, so she still wants him. Bell pretty much rushes forward, pretty much hitting that thing in the head, thinking the amount of force he used would probably be enough, as then it pretty much gets punched and it falls backward. Then taking its hand and smashing into him, he's like, whoa. As he's smashes through a thing of a roof, he's like, clearly I'm gonna need to rethink this strategy. He then lands back on the roof, takes out his weapon. He's like, let's see how it likes this. Charging up a bit of lightning, he's like, try this on for sorries. So he takes it, and as he's standing there, up in the air, jumping, two people see him. Hephaestus and Thor were there talking, wandering around the festival, talking about Bell, in fact. As they saw the giant ape, Thor was about to rush in, as they see Bell jumping in the air. Spear held back like in a harp, like he's about to throw it, charges up some lightning. As he throws it, they both get a flashback to when they used to watch Bell from the heavens, and they remember him doing something similar to an army of humans when they were in that civil war. As there's a flashback to when this was one of the places where, I believe I actually said this already. Yeah, I did. What happened is that he was fighting against a very high-ranking Silver Knight put in charge of a nice little decent thing of defense of a city. Bell, having used his weapon, threw it down. As the knight tried to defend against it, it pierced through his shield and impaled him on the ground, turning him on the inside into ashes in his armor. So then Bell did the exact same thing to this thing as it poofed out of air, and then the chains just dropped, and Bell landed right there, picking up his weapon. The lightning had seared off all the cloth that was covering it, as he pretty much had it standing proudly in the air. The stone would probably be useful. As he looks over, he sees Thor and Hephaestus. He actually then goes like, oh shit. Sorry. He then looks over at Hestia and Seer and kneels before the two of them. Are you alright? She's like, I'm fine. It's just that the thing caught us off guard a little bit. She's like, well, anyways, I think that's enough adventure for today. Don't you say, Hestia? How about we go now? Like now, right now. She's like, alright, stop being so pushy. As Thor and Hephaestus look at each other. Is that just me, or is that the same weapon that was made for a yep? And he's lifting it without a yep, and he uses yep. we're gonna go to Hestia's house and question this. As they pretty much immediately start making their way towards Hestia's place when it becomes nighttime. Belle's sleeping above, like having a proper bed and pillows. Pretty much approaches the church door, looks down and sees the two of them. He's like, shut. As he shuts the door, it's like, open this door for him. I know it's you. It's like, shit. Opens the door, like so. Yeah, this has been a while since we last talked, isn't it, Hephaestus and Thor? Thor rushes forward, buddy! Pretty much grabbing, like, onto him. It's been too long. He's like, yeah, Thor, it's great to see you too. So, how have you been? How did you come back to life? He's like, I have no clue. He says it that he has no idea how he's alive. Sorry. He has no clue how he's alive. He just woke up, started traveling. This is how he phrases it. Thor's like, oh, it's so good to see you. But as he says this, he's like, I can tell just by looking at you, you are way weaker than you were before. He's like, yeah, I think that comes at the prospect of not being a god anymore. As he's like, I think you are, but aren't. This is a very confusing situation. I have no idea what you are. It's like, neither do I. And she's like, so, Hestia's your familia leader? He's like, yep. Yeah, this is weird, trust me. It's not only for you, but no one else knows that I am me. Except for Loki. She's the only one who knows. Loki? You told Loki before me? She found out. Come on, I spent so much time hanging out with you. She was bound to find out. She's like, you're right. Anyway, your brother and sister are doing well. He's like, that's good to hear. And as for your children from your first familia, they all got into heaven. Don't worry about that. He's like, that's good to know. That's good to know. Also, your father isn't in heaven. I figured that, consider I took everything I had and destroyed them. Yeah, they're enjoying their lives up there. Even their kids are up there. He's like, whoa, really? Do they have a chance to be looking down on me right now? He's like, possibly. As up in heaven, there's like, yeah, he's alive, he's alive. As they're like, he's alive, folks, he's alive. The Lord is alive. As they just start saying that, Havel's like, good. It's good to see that he's walking around. Solar's like, praise the sun indeed. Praise the sun. And several warriors behind him are saying the exact same thing. Pretty much staying in the way in the where his family used to live. Everything's like very big and such, but they've made smaller versions of everything. As they go back down, Bell explains his situation, and he has no clue how he got here. All he knows is that he'll continue to live his life as it is now. Maybe he'll find answers, maybe he won't. Maybe he'll become a god, maybe he won't. All time will tell. Anyways, it's been good seeing you guys, but I'm pretty sure Hestia would find it weird that you two are here right now. He's like, yeah. See you later, buddy. As Thor gives a hug to Belle. Hephaestus is like, it's good to see you again, Belle. Like, it's good to see you too, Hephaestus. She's like, it seems that weapon has stayed in good condition. He's like, best one you ever made. She's like, indeed it was, Belle. Indeed it was. And she gives him a hug, and he gives her a hug as well. Stay safe. Stay safe, Belle. As they leave and Belle goes to rest his head, he's like, hopefully everything will be good. As he goes to sleep. And that is where I'll be ending it off right here. I hope y'all have enjoyed this. y'all continue to enjoy this, and I hope y'all have a nice day, nice night, nice life.